from contractor relations at Crete. I'd sent them a message that said, "Hey, let me know when them truck prices come down." Evidently, they lowered the price about 2 weeks ago. They shaved off an additional $5,000 off the asking price for a 2022 Freightliner Cascadia, 450 horsepower automatic transmission that comes with the Daimler extended warranty. The price includes the extended warranty for additional 2 years, which would give you warranty coverage for 7 years or 700, I think 750,000 miles warranty coverage. It's great warranty. You can't beat that warranty. So the price previously for the 2022 models when they first became available was 84,300. That was back in April timeframe, and here it is, about 3 months later, and the price came down 5,000 to 79,300. Same make, model, and mileage, about 400,000 miles. So this is like a 6% savings in the price of the truck, and there's no sales tax because Nebraska doesn't have sales tax on trucks. So, like for example, I'm in Texas. If I was to go to a dealership here in Texas, like Freightliner, go to Freightliner dealership, not only would I pay a higher price for that truck, but I'd also pay, Texas sales tax, 6% or 8% sales tax on that truck. By buying a truck through Crete, I don't pay the sales tax, and I would have to pay, additional at Freightliner for the extended warranty. With Crete, the price of the truck includes the extended warranty. This is why guys often prefer buying trucks from Crete rather than buying it from anywhere else. The Crete price is kind of like a wholesale price. They're giving you quite, a savings on that truck. Now you can't negotiate. I've tried to negotiate in years past. They don't negotiate. The price is the price is the price. But you couldn't buy that same truck off a dealer lot for that price. So sometimes it's all strategy. It's just, do you buy the truck 3 months ago, or do you wait to see if the prices come down? Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. It's like it's a strategic, almost like a game of strategy. It's like, are you going to play the game? Are you going to wait for truck prices to come down? Maybe they'll come down, maybe they'll go up. I had a strong feeling, and it's all it is my own intuition that prices would probably come down. I thought initially 85,000 was too high, for that truck, because the previous year, the 2021s were selling for 61. Crete was selling them for 61,000. Then 2022 comes out, and they jacked the price up by 23,000. They do respond to market conditions and supply and demand. They felt that 84,000 was the correct price. And it's like, I think that's a little high. Wait 3 months and the price came down $5,000. That's significant. $5,000 is probably at least 1 month of profit as an owner operator. So it didn't kill you to wait an extra month or two for prices to come down. Now, interest rates are still high, because that has nothing to do with Crete. It's because the Federal Reserve, that hasn't lowered interest rates. But I do think there's a lot of chatter out there right now amongst the Federal Reserve board members that they would like to do at least a 1% rate drop here soon in July. Some people think we'll have as much as a 2% drop by the end of the year. But if you use a calculator, the auto loan calculator, there's not a huge amount of savings opportunity there amongst interest rates, 1% difference. It's not, I think it comes up to like $1,000 over the life of the loan. What you really wanted was a drop in truck prices. You know, a drop in interest rate may save you $1,000. You wait for truck prices to come down, as in this case, saved you $5,000. You know, that was fantastic. So, you know, ideally, I would prefer, you know, I'm in the market to buy a truck, you know, probably within the next 30 days or so. You know, ideally, I just got a $5,000 savings on the truck that I'm interested in. Now I want to see the Federal Reserve in the next couple of weeks drop interest rates by a point, you know, 1%. You know, then you combine the interest rate saving plus the drop in truck prices, that would be like a $6,000 savings. You know, just because you played the game of strategy of, you know, trying to wait a little bit for the best opportunity to buy. You know, and you know, these are things you have to think about when you're buying trucks. You know, when do you sell the old truck? When do you buy another truck? You know, is the market a buyer's market or is the market a seller's market? You know, would it make sense for you to wait or just go ahead and pull the trigger and buy the truck now? You know, all these things you have to think about. You know, what's your strategy? A lot of people say, you know, there's no difference between being a company driver and owner operator. Okay, if that's what you want to believe, you know, but having been both, I can tell you being an owner operator is about 10 times harder than being a company driver. You think company drivers spend any time thinking about interest rates? No. You think company drivers think about, you know, what the true value of the truck is? No. Do you think company drivers are planning a strategy, you know, or trying to run a small business? No. You know, so owner operators have a lot more responsibility on their shoulders, you know, and they have to spend time thinking about this stuff. You know, it's not as easy as you would think. You know, you're like, well, just spend the money. Okay, well, if you have that kind of attitude, you're probably not going to be in business very long because, you know, you have to control costs. You know, the difference between making a profit or not is how good are you at controlling costs. You know, are you spending money frivolously? If you are, you know, you're just spinning your wheels, you're wasting time, you're not making any profit. You might as well stay as a company driver. You know, but if you use strategy and you control your costs and you know, are watching where every dollar goes, you're going to spend a lot of time thinking about this. Just like, you know, do you buy it when the price is at 84 or do you wait for it to see if it comes down and then buy it at 79? You know, I think the prudent owner operator is going to weigh the pros and cons of either choice and decide what's best for them. You know, so truck prices have come down, and this is one of the things that I was waiting for. You know, I'm also waiting to see if that interest rate will come down. You know, if that interest rate comes down by 1% over the next 30 days, then I'll be like, this is probably all, you know, that's all I'm going to get for now. Probably not going to get much better than that for the rest of this year. So it's like, well, you know, you had a plan, you had a strategy. Now it's time to put the plan in action. All right, guys, that's all I got for you. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the internet.